Okay, for Algebra 9.5 notes, we are learning something new. It is called completing the square. So the essential understanding is that factoring is only one way to solve a quadratic equation. So in this lesson, you're going to learn a new way, and it is called completing the square. So here's the part that you really need to know. In general, you can change the expression x squared plus bx into a perfect square. So if you're not finding that it's going to factor, but you really want it to try to be factored, you can do something to it and it will be called completing the square. And here's the thing that you're going to do to it. You're going to take whatever number, is in your b's position, and you're going to divide it by 2. And then once you do that, you're going to square the whole thing. So find whatever b is, divide by 2, and then square it. And once you have that, that is going to become your c term. So that's going to be completing the square. That's going to be giving you a c that will make it perfect, and it will be able to be solved a lot easier. And by the way, it says b doesn't matter whether it's positive or negative, because when you square something, a negative times a negative would be positive, and a positive times a positive would also be positive. So it doesn't matter whether b is positive or negative. You can still do this every time. So the first part is just finding what that c is. So this is the easy part. Basically, this is just practicing taking that b term, dividing by 2, and squaring it. So for example, if you had x squared minus 16x plus c, and they want you to find what c is going to be, you're just going to take your b term, which is negative 16. You're going to take negative 16 and divide it by 2, which negative 16 divided by 2 is 8, and then square it. 8 squared is 64. So your c term would become 64. So then the whole thing, if you're solving it, which we're going to do later, would be x squared minus 16x plus 64. Okay, let's try the got it to see if you could figure out what your c term is going to be. If you want to pause the video, you can try it on your own. If you're not ready to pause the video, I will work it out with you. My b term is 20. So I'm just going to take 20 divided by 2, and then I'm going to square that answer. 20 divided by 2 is 10. 10 squared is 100. So that means my c term is 100. So if it asks you just what would the c term be, all you have to do is this b divided by 2 squared. Now we're going to get into how we use that c term. Once you figure out how to use it, it's going to be a lot easier to solve problems by doing this little method. So I know they have it worked out off to the side, but I'm also going to work it out off to the side because I, instead of talking through it, want to show you the math behind it. So I'm going to start right next to theirs like they did. And the whole point is I'm trying to find the two solutions now. So remember, solutions to a quadratic are where it hits the x-axis. So if I want to find solutions by completing the square, this is the process of that. So x squared minus 14x plus 16 equals 0. The first step is you're actually going to solve the equation. So I want to move the c term away, because this is not a perfect square. I want to try to find something that when I have like x plus 7, that would be 14, but 7 times 7 is not 16. So this won't work. So I'm going to move the c term away. So I'm going to move it to the other side to begin with. I'm going to leave us with x squared minus 14x equals this negative 16. Okay, this is the part that's new today. If you have an x squared minus a 14x and you need a new c term, we can take the b. I'm going to do it off to the side over here. I'm going to take negative 14. I'm going to divide it by 2, and then I'm going to square it to come up with a new c term. So negative 14 divided by 2 is negative 7. Negative 7 squared, negative 7 times negative 7 is positive 49. So I want my new c term to be 49. So I have x squared minus 14x. I'm going to do plus 49 so that I can have a perfect square. You should be able to look at this side and already tell how it's a perfect square. But I can't just add 49 to one side. I also have to add 49 to the other side, because since it's an equation, what you do to one side, you also always have to do to the other. So let's see what we have now. We have the x squared minus the 14x plus 49 over here. And over here we have whatever negative 16 plus 49 is. So negative 16 plus 49 is 33. Oh, and I forgot they have that here anyway. Okay, the point to getting a new C term is because now we can write it as a simple binomial squared, because I know that x squared minus 14x plus 49 is the same thing as x minus 7 squared. So if I were to FOIL this or box it, I would write x minus 7 squared twice, or sorry, x minus 7 twice, and then I would get x squared minus 14x plus 49. But it's easier to be written like this because that's a perfect square. And it equals the 33. Okay, remember, we're trying to solve this problem without having to do a ton of extra quadratic formula, for example, work, which you're going to learn in the next lesson. But once we get it to here, we know that it's squared. So I want to solve it for x. So the first thing is I need to get rid of the squared. So I'm going to square root both sides. What you do to one side, you have to do to the other. If you square root something that's being squared, it just cancels out both of those and it leaves x minus 7 by itself. If we square root 33, you're going to be left with a positive or negative root. And the reason is because a positive times a positive would be positive 33, but also a negative times a negative something could still be 33. So we're going to have two answers here. So the square root of 33, and we're going to have to be rounding, this is not going to be nice and neat, is about, we're going to call it 5.74. So we're going to say positive or negative 5.74. Okay, this is where we get our two answers, because x minus 7 could equal positive 5.74, or x minus 7 could also equal negative 5.74. So I'm going to branch this off here and make it into two separate problems, and I'm out of space, so I'm going to do it over here. I'm going to have it where x minus 7 equals that positive 5.74, and then I'm also going to have the problem x minus 7 equals that negative 5.74. Okay, and these are simple one-step equations. You were probably doing this a few years ago in math. All we're going to do is add 7 to both sides, and we're going to come up with our two answers, our two roots of where this parabola would cross the x-axes. I'm going to say about because I know we rounded the 5.74. So these cancel. 5.74 plus 7 equals about 12.74. And then these cancel, and the other answer is negative 5.74 plus 7. Oh, I didn't put my decimal in. Negative 5.74 plus 7 equals about 1.26. So our two answers, we'll see if we did it right, yep, are about x equals 12.74 and about x equals 1.26. So this is an example of how it would be easier to come up with that new C term and solve it this way to get our two solutions rather than trying to factor, because it wouldn't have factored. 16 wouldn't have factored. Okay, if you are ready to try one on your own, pause the video and do this got it. If not, I will work it out with you. Okay, remember we're going to start by just solving this. We're just trying to get the answer of what x is, what two answers x is, because it's where the parabola would hit the x-axis. So first I'm going to subtract 15 to the other side because I know it won't work. It's not a perfect square. If this was 9 and then like 81, it would be great, but it's not. So we're going to subtract 15 to move it away, and we're going to be left with x squared plus 9x equals that negative 15. Okay, I need a new C term in here that can allow me to complete the square. So I'm going to take my B term and divide by 2 and then square it. That's how to come up with your new C term. That was the whole point of the lesson up here above today. So this one's going to be kind of yucky because 9 divided by 2 is 4.5, and I don't know what 4.5 squared is. 4.5 squared is 20.25, but that's okay. So 20.25 has completed our square. That's our new C term, and remember it's going to be 4.5. So x squared plus 9x, and I want to add our C term, which is 20.25. Don't forget, you're going to have to add 20.25 to this side too, because if you added it over here, you also have to add it over here. So negative 15 plus 20.25 is 5.25. Okay, now I completed this square, meaning it is a square of 4.5. Okay, again, how you would do this is, did I forget my x? 4.5. No, this is right. So if I took, I know that you probably understand this already, but in case you don't, it's like saying two of these sets of parentheses. So two sets of x plus 4.5. And if I were to box or FOIL this, it would give us x squared plus 9x plus 20.25. So I'm taking that and I'm just writing it in a different form. So this form is going to help me now because I want to solve it for x. So if this whole thing is being squared, I want to square root it to get rid of the squared, and what you do to one side, you also have to do to the other. So square root and square cancel each other out, and it leaves us with just x plus 4.5. On the right, remember when you square root something, you're going to be left with the positive and negative version of it. So the square root of 5.25 is about, we're going to call it 2.29. So we're going to say it's about 2.29. Okay, we're almost done because our whole point is to getting x by itself, and it's almost solved. The only problem is you're going to have a plus and minus, which means you're going to have two different answers. So I'm going to branch off my problem here, and I'm going to make it whatever x plus 4.5 is equal to the positive 2.29, and I'm going to do it again, x plus 4.5, and this time I'm going to make it equal to the negative 2.29 because those are both two different answers. That's going to give us our two answers. There's only one more step to solving these, and that is subtracting 4.5 on each side so that we can get x by itself. And remember, it's about because we rounded 2.29. So 2.29 minus 4.5 is about negative 2.21. That's one of our answers. The other answer where it would hit the x-axis, we need to subtract 4.5 over here as well. And remember, it's about, so negative 2.29, or sorry, yeah, negative 2.29 this time, minus 4.5 is about negative 6.79. Negative 6.79, and that's our other answer. Okay, let's go ahead and continue this onto the next page. 9.5 notes is going to go on to talk a little bit about vertex form. This is a really, really important concept. You need to know that vertex form is just another form, just like standard form, just like quadratic form, just like any of the different forms of equations we have. And it looks like this: y equals a parenthesis x minus h squared plus k. And the reason this form matters is because it very quickly shows you where the vertex is. So if you're talking about the vertex of a parabola and you want to find it very quickly, if you want to find that vertex and you're like, I don't know what two numbers of an ordered pair that vertex represents, but you have an equation that's in vertex form, you can really easily grab this number and this number. And those two numbers is your vertex, HK. So whatever number is in the H spot and whatever number is in the K spot is your vertex. Here it is. Yeah, it's written right like this. So A sometimes is a 1. So sometimes you won't see A because if it's 1, it's just the rest of it. So a lot of times you'll just see y equals x minus h squared plus k. But whatever h is your x coordinate, and whatever k is your y coordinate. So we're going to do a few of these where it says, tell me what the vertex is. And once you get it in vertex form, you can easily say, well, it's just whatever that number is and that number. In fact, let me give you a quick example. That's supposed to be an E. Whoops. Here's your quick example. If we had the equation y equals parenthesis x minus 7 squared plus 5, and it says, okay, what is the vertex? You can easily say the vertex is 7, 5. Done. That's super quick. So there was no math involved. If I give you an equation in vertex form, you can easily say it's 7, 5. Now notice a minus is part of the original formula. So if it was ever a plus, in fact, here, let me give you one more. So here's another example. Let's say it says y equals x plus 9 squared minus 4, and it says, okay, what is the vertex? You're going to say, oh, that was supposed to be a minus. So since it's a plus, that must have meant it was a negative 9. And it's supposed to be a plus at the end of right before your y coordinate. And since it's a minus, that must mean that my 4 is negative as well. So pay close attention to what the positive negative symbol is, what the form is, so that you know if it's a -4 and a -9, -9 and -4. Okay, let's complete the square and then find the vertex, just like we've been doing up here. Just identify basically the vertex. So I will go ahead and I could talk you through this too, but I think these need a little bit more practice. So I'm also going to work this one out. So just find a little space up here. So it wants us to do y equals x squared plus 6x plus 8. Okay, remember, we want to rearrange it and get it into vertex form so that we can find what the vertex is. So the first thing I want to do is get rid of that 8. I'm going to minus the 8 to the other side. For now, we just want to complete the square. And we've been completing the square in this whole lesson. So this entire thing is us needing to get a new c term. So we need to get rid of the first c term. That's going to just be y minus 8 over here. And now we have x squared plus 6x. And I want to make up my new c term. I want to complete the square so that it's a little bit easier to calculate. So I'm going to take this and do this new little trick, which is 6 divided by 2 squared to get my new c term. 6 divided by 2 is 3. 3 squared is 9. So I'm going to add 9, remember, to both sides. What you do to one side, you have to also do to the other. So this is going to be y plus 1, because -8 plus 9 is 1. On the right, this is a perfect square trinomial. So it is the same thing as just x plus 3 squared. Because remember, if the b terms get added, it's 6. If the b terms get multiplied, it's 9. So that's your square that we've completed. Okay, and then notice this is almost done. Look at it. It's almost in vertex form already. Here is vertex form again. It's just that y is by itself in vertex form. But you've got the parentheses with the squared, with the thing added at the end. So we just need y by itself. So y is almost by itself. So we're just going to subtract 1 to over here. So when we minus 1 from both sides, we now have a formula in vertex form, and we can easily identify the vertex, the h and the k. Remember, that was supposed to be a minus, so that tells us that the vertex is a negative, and this was supposed to be a plus. Oops, so that tells us this is also a negative. So the vertex is -3, -1. So, and we got it right because it's right there. So all we did was we took everything we've learned today. We completed the square, and then we wrote it in vertex form so that we could quickly identify what the vertex is. If you are ready to try these last two on your own, the got it's, pause the video and try these on your own. If you're not, I will work them out with you. Okay, so remember, to begin with, we want these to be a perfect square trinomial, and it's not. If this was a 16, it would be, or no, actually that would have to be a 4, because 2 plus 2 and 2 times 2. So we want to get rid of the 10. So we're going to subtract 10, move it away. We can't use the 10. So we're going to leave it y minus 10 over here. This side, we're going to come up with our new c term, which I just told you what it was, but in case you forgot and you don't know how to do this, remember it's b divided by 2, so 4 divided by 2, and then that whole answer squared. So 4 divided by 2 is 2, 2 squared is 4. So 4 is our new c term. So we want to add 4, but we can't just add it to this side, we have to also add it to this side. In an equation, you have to keep it balanced. So y minus 10 plus 4 is y minus 6. On the right, we'll go ahead and change this into its parenthesis, into its factored form. So this would be x plus 2 squared. And again, all that means is if you added 2 plus 2, you get 4x. If you multiplied 2 times 2, you get 4. So this is just changing its form. This is the same thing as this, written in a different form. And we're almost done. We just need y to be by itself. So I'm going to add 6 to move it back over. And once I've added 6, y is by itself. We have parenthesis x plus 2 squared, and we have a plus 6. And it wants to know what the vertex is. It says find the vertex. So the vertex we can quickly identify when it's in vertex form as 2, 6. Except the problem is its form is a minus here. So that means this one is a negative. It's a negative and then a positive. So since this one is supposed to be a minus and it's a positive, we know it would be negative 2, but this one is supposed to be a positive, and it is. So that means it's positive 6. Okay, maybe you didn't want to do that one on your own, but maybe you can try B. If you can, go ahead and pause the video and try B. All right, I will work this last one out with you if you weren't sure. First, I'm going to get rid of the 34 because this is not a square. We want it to be perfectly completed of a square. So I'm going to minus the 34. I'm going to subtract it to the other side for now just to kind of get rid of it. We'll use it later. So we've got y minus 34 over here. And then over here we've got x squared plus 12x. And I need a new c term. So I'm going to take my b term 12. And I'm going to divide by 2. And then whatever that answer is, I'm going to square it. So 12 divided by 2 is 6. 6 squared is 36. So I'm going to use 36 as my c term. So I'm going to add 36. I'm going to also have to add 36 over here to keep the equations balanced. Y minus 34 plus 36 would be y plus 2. And then on the right, I'm going to go ahead and put this in a different form. This is the same thing as x plus 6 squared. Because if you add the 2 6's, it'd be 12x. If you multiply the 2 6's, it'd be 36. So it's almost vertex form. The only thing is we got to get y by itself. So I'm going to minus 2 over here. Y would be equal to parenthesis x plus 6 squared minus 2. And now that it is in vertex form, I can quickly and easily identify what the vertex of my parabola would be. It would be 6, but remember this is supposed to be a minus, and since it's positive, that means it must be a negative negative, so it's a negative 6. And this one was actually supposed to be a plus. So since it's a minus, that means it's a negative 2.